Hi guys. So, I have a question for you. My question is, why are people who have products so obsessed about getting into retail? And having been in retail yourself, I would like to know what your advice to them would be, especially in our current economic climate.
It's a tough one. I think people
And be
are
honest
Yeah,
about
no, fair, no, it's fine. Yeah, I think people are obsessed about getting into retail because it adds some credibility. I think, or the feeling is that it adds credibility. It's almost as though whilst you have that product, you could be doing well and selling massive volume, but it's the moment where you get into a large retailer that you get the kind of stamp of approval. I think that's what it is. I think people feel like, oh, okay, now I've made it now because we're in blah store or whatever store they aspire to be in. I think the reality is retail is good, yes, number one for credibility, but number two for large scale orders. But you don't typically make as much money from selling in retail as you would if you were selling direct to consumer. Now, I say typically because the reality is you might sell 1,000 products by going to retail, and you might have to take 40, 50, 60, 70% discount on your product because of it. But obviously you've sold 1,000 products, so you might still make a profit, but it might not be as larger profit, but you've managed to get 1,000 products out of your stock that are sold, and it means 1,000 more people might see your product and buy again, all of that good stuff. So there's swings and roundabouts as to why you would do it, but the reality is if you were selling direct to consumer, you're in a much better position because you've got their data to market to them again. You also have obviously a larger profit as a result of selling direct to them. You don't have to consider retail margins, but also just from a cash flow perspective, a lot of retailers will pay in 60, 90 days, and some people just can't afford to be able to pay for that.
Cash flow, maintain their cash flow.
They can't maintain a cash flow.
They've sent their product.
Waiting.
They've paid all this money to prep it, make it.
Especially if they're not the maker, so they've got someone who's a manufacturer or factory making it for them, and they have to pay that factory in advance, and they're not able to negotiate any terms that allows them to delay payment. Then they now have to find that money to pay the factory before and wait 60, 90 days to get that money back from that retailer. And I think now in this current economic climate where things are quite uncertain, there's every chance, unfortunately, that retailer could easily go into administration or liquidation or CVA and you might not have any notice, or you might be way at the bottom of that line of people they need to pay, and therefore never get your money. So it's a huge risk, and you see brands, or I've heard of and seen brands put products into retailers and just never get paid.
But listen to how crazy this world is. So imagine the retailer gets a product on consignment with the promise to pay. They sell a portion of it, and they probably have some in their stock or warehouse.
Yeah.
But they own it, but haven't paid for it. And then they get liquidated, or they struggling,
or they get bought by someone else, and they don't facilitate,
and they don't honour that agreement.
Yeah.
That is insane. Like, that's criminal.
Well, it is and it isn't, because I think the process of administration and liquidation and the other options available mean that they have to pay them, but it's like
they get a penny in the pound.
Penny in a pound or something like that, and they have to pay the people they owe the most first. So if you're at the bottom of that pile,
top of the list.
Yeah, if you're at the bottom of that pile, there's every chance that you might not get any money. So, I think what I find really interesting now, I think, about smaller brands is they're able to get quite a lot of traction using social media, and they're able to develop their own very clear kind of target market who are buying from them, and they can grow that way, and actually they can grow online or they can grow via other retailers, e-commerce and otherwise. But I think it's so important to grow your own market and have their direct contact details. Don't just depend on getting into retail. Don't look at retail as a holy grail, but also don't necessarily look at the larger retailers. There are so many smaller niche kind of boutiques, and if you're a beauty product, then there's niche boutiques and pharmacies and so on who need product too and will pay in prior to getting the delivery, or will pay within 30 days of delivery.
True.
And so that helps your cash flow. So just don't always look to the big brands as the be all and end all, because they're not doing amazingly well right now.
There must be some form of insurance that protects you actually if a retailer becomes insolvent.
Probably.
If the order is big enough, you would probably protect yourself.
Yeah.
Another cost.
Yeah,
But
that's the problem, because some people can't afford. They can't afford to do it. Like the other day, someone emailed me and said, Bianca, I've got this amazing order from a retailer for thousands of product, but I can't afford to pay to make the product. What do I do? So if you can't afford to make the product in the first place to facilitate or to agree that order, how do you build the brand, and how can you afford the insurance to protect you against that retailer if they go into they go into liquidation or whatever? So I think that's the problem. So I think people do focus on retail a lot as their way of getting their product out there, and I think now more than ever there are so many other avenues.
Let me ask you this question then. So if a retailer came in and said to you they want 100,000 units of your stock, and you just say, let's say it was a crazy amount, right?
Yeah.
And you couldn't afford to pay the warehouse, or let me not even put no terms on it. Okay. So you just didn't have the money to pay up front for the product. What would you do?
Well, I think, number one, you would look at kind of invoice factoring options.
No, what would you do?
Me personally?
Yeah.
But that's an invoice factoring option.
That's what you look at?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things would be invoice factoring. So if I've got a solid order and it's from a reputable brand, you go the invoice factoring route, and they'll give you a percentage of that order, a percentage of the money from that order in advance to allow you to facilitate the purchase of that product, to facilitate the order, essentially. So that's one thing. This is assuming I don't have the cash myself.
Yeah.
Presumably.
So with invoice factoring, I wonder if they always allow you to do it because they will finance an invoice based on delivery, but if you haven't made the product yet. So
that's the problem that I've heard that some people are having. They haven't made the product yet, so then what do you do? So I understand that. There
may be some lenders that will still do it actually.
Yeah, I think there are some.
Suspect there will be.
Yeah. Crowdfund, business loan. You might find an investor that's happy to invest in that particular order. I think those are some of the options. What would you use?
See, now I think you would be able to, because of your relationship with your manufacturers, I think you'll be able to negotiate with them terms.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, obviously. But I already have that relationship with I wouldn't have that problem, because my terms with my manufacturer are I've negotiated good terms. I don't have to pay everything up front.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first thing. Sorry, I thought you meant if your factory wasn't happy to.
You couldn't afford to. There was an order of 1 million units, for example.
Yeah, sure.
Couldn't finance it because it was like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I think look, my factory, my relationship with them is good, and I've negotiated good terms with them. But I don't know if they would do. If it was a million orders, that would probably take off all of their resource. So I'm not sure that they would do it. But I think if you've got a good relationship with them, you can prove that you've had orders, which obviously I have. I've got a good track record of paying, and so on. I think it becomes easier. But I think it does depend on how busy they are. It does depend on how much they trust you, and the relationship you have, I guess. So yeah, I think some of the people I've spoken to, is because of where they manufacture, why they don't have the flexibility that I have. So I think because they've chosen to manufacture in foreign territories,
So hang on a second.
they're having
So
more
you would
issues.
crowdfund before you ask me?
How would
So you're not giving real answers here. So,
Oh, you
or
said
are you
no,
giving a
no,
real
hold
answer?
on.
No, so is that your real answer?
Whatever, Byron.
Huh?
Whatever.
Are you crowdfunding before you ask me?
Byron, if you had the money, I shouldn't even have to ask you. You know the scenario, we would have discussed it. We would have looked at our options. I shouldn't have to ask you. The same way you wouldn't ask me if you needed something. I would just give you the money. That's stupid.
She got out of that nice.
No, it's just silly. It's silly, Byron. That's obvious. You go to your friends and family first.
Trying to do some sleight of hand.
Nah, stop it, Byron. Stop it.
Alright,
Stop it.
we'll let you off there.
Come on.
Alright, cool. Well, thank you for that.
With that multi-million-pound contract that you got, yeah? That I'm gonna get the order.
Well, you know.
I'm gonna ask you, don't worry. I'll tap you up right. You're the first guy on the list.
The police are coming for you. You're talking rubbish.
On that note,
On that note,
bye guys.
au revoir.